Alright. Okay, come. Sorry for the small issues. Let's continue. So your first question talks about the digestive system. So remember I told you the first thing you need to do, alright, is to actually identify what is the topic and then the concept. So the topic for this, if you look at the question, the keywords already here, digestive system. So the topic is actually the human system. Then you ask yourself, what is actually the concept? So the concept over here, right, they are talking about matching the parts and their functions correctly. So this would actually tell you that the concept that they want to test you on is actually on functions of the digestive organs. Okay, functions of the digestive organs. Now for this particular thing, right, there is no way that you can get away without putting in hard work to memorize. Absolutely no way. You have to go and memorize the various functions. Now, what are the important parts that you must know in order to memorize? I've already summarized in my video, in my revision. However, I would like to stress again. Now, you will need to know your mouth, your gullet, your stomach, your small intestines. I'm going to use short form for S, stands for small intestine. Your large intestine. Lastly, okay, would be your anus. So these are the various parts that you need to know about the function. Okay? So very quickly, alright, we need to actually take a look. Now, for MCQ question, right, you need to do the elimination method. That is actually the best method. That means if it's not the correct answer, we get rid of it. So food is churned. Now, for food that is churned, we know that this happens in the stomach. This is a function of a stomach. If you don't remember what is churning, churning is about mixing the food. So you imagine you put things into a bag and you start to squish the bag in different direction. Now that is actually churning. And as the bag gets squashed around, the gastric juices, alright, together with the food would actually be further broken down and mixed up. Okay? Please write it down because I'm showing you how I actually do in an actual exam if I'm a student. Now, digestion of food is completed. There's only one place where food is actually completely digested, and digestion ends at this particular organ. Anyone can tell me what is that?
Small intestine.
Very good. So that is your small intestine. Now, your small intestine has two very important functions. The first one is to complete digestion. Now, the reason why it's able to complete digestion is because it contains a special type of digestive juice that is able to digest all types of food. Okay? There's a reason why we have undigested food in our large intestine, because we simply do not produce the type of digestive juice to digest fiber. That's why fiber is not digested. It goes into our large intestine and then it gets passed out. So completion of digestion of food happens in your small intestine. Water that is being absorbed, okay, this one, it actually belongs to my large intestine. So not only does your large intestine absorb water, it also absorbs excess mineral salts. So this is actually a two-level question. First, you have to know the function of each part of your organs. Second, you must be able to recognize how does your organ look like. So B is actually referring to your gullet. Now there is another name for your gullet which you might see occasionally in textbook. It's called your esophagus or esophagus. Now C is actually your stomach. E is your large intestine. F is your anus. D is actually your small intestine. Now, your mouth is here. So while we're at labeling, I also want to stress that the last part of your large intestine, a lot of you get very confused, somewhere around here. This is known as your rectum. Now your rectum is actually part of your small intestine, your rectum. Okay, it's part of your small intestine. Once again, if you're not sure, please refer back to my revision video, it's there. Okay, your rectum. So just before it passes out of your anus or your body through your anus, your feces will be stopped in this area here. Okay, so the rectum is not really say a segment on its own, it's just part of the large intestine altogether. Alright, so therefore we can go by elimination method. So very straight away, we know that it happens in the stomach. So stomach is actually my C. Alright, so in this case, the first one, they tell me stomach is B. Straight away, this is wrong. I can rule out 1. Okay, anything that is not C, straight away wrong already. Okay, that's how I eliminate. Okay, so this 2 is correct. Then after that, I know that digestion of food is completed in my small intestine, which is D. So anything that is not D, I can rule out already. This is correct, this is wrong. So this needs to be wrong as well. But I want to check to make sure that the last one is correct. So when food is absorbed from undigested food, I know it's E, my large intestine over here. Is this E? Yes. So therefore answer 4. Okay, that's how you do it by elimination method. Okay, I'm just going to stop here for about 5 seconds to let you all copy down whatever you need to copy. Okay, moving on to question 2. Now, Amos blew air into a balloon until it was fully inflated. He then tied up the balloon with a rubber band. Which of the following is likely composition of air in the balloon after Amos blew into it? So straight off the top, I see things like, blowing air. I see words like composition of air. So this will give me a hint that they are actually referring to the topic of respiration in humans, the respiratory system. So topic will be respiratory system. And the concept that they are testing me on would actually be air composition or composition of air. Now you all need to be familiarized with this term, composition of air. Now what does it mean? Composition means what is the percentage that is being formed, okay, that actually forms air. So first thing first, is air a pure substance? Is air a pure substance? No, air is not. Air is actually a mixture of various gases, and these gases, okay, they are not fixed one, but generally we learn that there is a certain percentage of carbon dioxide, which is 0.03%. Very good. Very good. Nitrogen. So what is nitrogen's percentage, Yunana? Well done, 78. Well done. Very good. So you need to memorize that percentage. Okay? So I'm going to just list down for you what is actually the percentage of the types that you need to know at least very quickly here. So the first thing you need to understand is your oxygen. Usually that is 21%. Carbon dioxide.
0.03%.
Well done, Aris. 0.03%. And then after that, you have your nitrogen.
78.
Well done. Excellent.
There's other gases also.
Yes, other gases make up for less.
97%. 0.97%.
Correct. Okay, less than 1%. So those other gases you don't need to know. But yeah, secondary school you will be exposed to them, such as neon, argon, okay, helium, etc. So basically, these are the three very important numbers you need to know. Generally, the composition of air is like that. But that doesn't mean it's fixed, huh? Different locations in the world have different composition. It's not fixed.
Like the Himalayan.
Yes. Okay, so even when you go higher up the atmosphere, you can get a lower percentage of oxygen. That's why you need to carry oxygen tank with you when you climb up. But on land, this is generally what we're talking about. Okay? Copy this down. This is very important. No, you're supposed to. Yes, then no choice. Okay. Now, so which of the following is likely the composition of air in the balloon after Amos blew into it? Okay. Now, so over here, right? They are trying to test you on the concept whereby when you take in air, what does your body absorb? Which oxygen? Very good. So the air that you blow into the balloon, will it have more oxygen or less oxygen? Less. Okay, very good. So your oxygen should decrease because your body will have taken in for what?
Oxygen.
Yes.
Respiration.
Okay, and then at the same time, you also need to understand that your carbon dioxide will go up. Reason being that carbon dioxide is actually a waste product when you respire, so you want to remove that from your body. So the only way to remove it is to breathe it out. Okay, the same way it went in, the same way it will come out. Okay, so based on these two, we can eliminate a few already. Okay, so we know that it shouldn't remain the same, so we cross out these two. This is wrong, this is wrong. It should decrease, it should decrease. Your oxygen level should be increased, you increase. Now your nitrogen, do you do anything with nitrogen or not?
No.
No, so it should remain the.
Yeah.
Very good, so this is wrong already. Straight away cross this out.
It's only for plants.
Then we go on to the last one. Now your water vapor should increase. Okay, so your answer is 2. Now this is something that you may not know, but I'm telling you that it's part of the syllabus. The air that you breathe out, right? Okay, you will have a higher amount of water vapor. Why? Because inside your lungs, if I were to zoom in, and this is your lungs, and I zoom even further in,
air sacs.
don't need. There is actually, within your air sacs, right? There is actually a water lining. Okay, for each of your air sac. So because of this water lining, right? Okay, in your air sacs, you're right. In each of your air sacs, there's actually water lining. Okay, this water lining, right, will actually evaporate and go into the air, and then you breathe it out. Now you do not need to know the details. I'm just telling you so to complete the picture, so you understand. Okay, why is it that water vapor will increase? Next. Okay, the diagram below shows a model of the human respiratory system. No need to see already. Topic would be respiratory system, correct? Okay, so you have a model. What do the various parts represent? So this will give you a hint that the topic for this question would be what?
Respiration.
Organs
Labeling.
of the respiratory system. So they are testing you whether you know which organs are associated with the respiratory system. For example, if they're testing you a concept on organs of digestive system, you will need to be able to tell me things like, oh, the stomach, small intestine, etc., etc. And you need to know how they look like. Okay? So, based on this, okay, straight. Yes, what happened? Sorry? Yes. Oh, just a gentle reminder, there is science remedial later. Okay? Do you know what's the start time? What tree something? Let's talk about this after that. Okay, now, so basically, your straw, which is a tube that allows air to go in, if you take a look at it, this is similar to which part? Very good, your windpipe. And then your balloons that can expand and contract. Which part of your very good, lungs, exactly. And then you have your plastic bottle, which is like your lung cavity or your rib cage. And then your rubber sheet will be your diaphragm. Very good. Okay, can you just write this down? Okay, so once again, straight away, we can use elimination method. The minute you see, you know your straw is your windpipe, right? So you see the first two options here, they say gullet, wrong already. Okay, we don't even need to take a look at it. So gullet it belongs to the digestive system. It does not belong to the respiratory system. Okay, so that's why it is very important to know what is your concept. Okay, sorry, this should be concept and not topic. Concept. Because straight away when I know what is my concept, I know they are talking about the respiratory system. So why is digestive system appearing? Straight away wrong. So windpipe, correct? So the balloons, we say it was got to do with your lungs, right? And then your rubber sheet is your diaphragm. So check. So everything checked correct already? Yes. So therefore the answer is number 3. Nothing very difficult. Okay? Finish copying already? Great. Moving on to the next one. Okay. The diagram below shows an air sac found in the human lungs. X and Y are gases that move in and out of the air sac. So once again, you have keywords like human lungs, gases, move in and out of air sacs. This will give you a very good idea that the topic would be on respiratory system. And the concept that is being tested in this case would be on what? Gaseous exchange. Right? Gaseous exchange. Straight away you know, gaseous exchange. Then after you think exchange what? Exchange what? So gaseous exchange, that means something must be taken and something must be given. So in our body, which gas do we need? Need air. Is it? Oxygen. The type of gas, Aris, that we are looking at is actually oxygen. Not air. Okay? We cannot use nitrogen, which is in air. We are looking at oxygen. And what do we want to give out? Carbon dioxide. Okay, so that's the exchange. We take in oxygen, we give out carbon dioxide. Now the reason why we give out carbon dioxide is because carbon dioxide is a waste product of
respiration.
Yes, it's a waste product of respiration. So when you respire, you actually give out carbon dioxide. You want to get rid of it. So very straightforward. Air is coming inside here. Okay? Now, which gas actually go in? So this is your blood. This is actually your blood vessel. So your red blood cells are actually here, which I'm going to draw it in. Now, then after that, they tell you that gas Y over here goes inside. So remember, I tell you, which gas do you want to go into your body?
Oxygen.
Oxygen, well done. So this has to be oxygen. And then which gas do you want to remove?
Carbon dioxide.
Great, excellent. So because of that, okay, we know that gas X must be carbon dioxide. Now, I think it's also very good if I can introduce to you what is the chemical formula. The chemical formula for carbon dioxide is CO2, where the chemical formula for oxygen is O2. Okay, the 2 is a small 2 at the bottom here. Alright, it's very useful for you, but because this is very common when you talk about photosynthesis, when you talk about a lot of things, sometimes textbook will use this symbol. Are you allowed to use this in your exams?
Yes,
No.
yes. I mean,
No.
but open-ended, you know.
No, yes, you're not allowed to use this in your exams. So why is it that I'm teaching you this? Is so that when I annotate it sometimes as CO2, you know it's carbon dioxide. Okay, so what is represented by gas X and Y? Very straightforward already. Gas X we know is carbon dioxide, so correct. This one wrong. Straight away cross out these two. And then after I tell you gas Y is actually oxygen, so this is correct, this is wrong, answer 1. Okay? Alright? So answer is 1. I repeat. Now, why is it not carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide does not come from inside the blood vessel. Why is it not water vapor? My apologies. Why is it not water vapor? Because water vapor does not come from here. Water vapor comes from here, the lining. However, if you take a look at the arrow, it actually starts from here and it goes out.
Blood vessel.
So it's from the blood vessel. Your water vapor will actually come from this area here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in some more. Okay, this is where your water vapor is, H2O. Okay, water vapor. Alright? Okay? It's good that if you can write this down also, somehow. I know it's very small for you, but it's good. Okay, so we are going to continue with our previous video. So question 5. Okay? So remember I told you what you need to do is to identify the topic first, followed by the concept. So in this case, the topic would actually, if you read at it, okay, the diagram shows how various food and various gases are transported in the human body. So straight away, the keyword transported in the human body will give me a very good hint that this is actually on human system. Okay, and if I were to look even carefully, I would think that this is on circulatory system. Why? Because they actually talk about transport. Then after that, the concept tested in this case, when I look at it, okay, you see there is multiple systems here, not just one system, but different system. So this actually gives me a hint that the concept is about how the various systems are actually interrelated. Organ system. Okay, the term to use here is actually organ system. Please write all these things down. I write all these things down not for you to actually look at it. It's for you to actually write down. Okay, are related. So basically, how do they help each other out? So for example, your digestive system is used to digest food. However, after the food is digested, you need another system to come in to transport all these digested food substances to every single cell. So in this case, the system to do this would be your circulatory system. Dayan, have you finished copying? Okay, good. Now, so over here, they ask you which systems do J, K, and L represent. So to do this, right, you first need to take a look at the hint. So in this case, okay, you have inhaled air going into your system J and exhaled air going out. So the first thing that you know here is which system actually talks about inhale and exhale air. Very good, your respiratory system, right? Because your respiratory system is the one that is in charge of gaseous exchange. Alright, whereby you take in oxygen and you give out carbon dioxide. So you have identified system J. Next thing. Then after that you have system K. System K has these two arrows. You don't know what does it mean. They didn't tell you what it means, but they show you that okay, it's something is being transported from J to K and then from K back to J. At the same time, you also realize that things are going to K. So think about it. Which system actually enables things to get transported up and down? Circulatory system, well done. And then after that, the last one talks about the hint here is your food. So which system is involving food? Digestive system. So you see, by actually identifying what is my topic, as well as by knowing what is my concept, whereby I talk about there is actually various organ system and it's not just one, I'm able to understand, okay, I need to identify it. Alright? There are different systems. So the answer here is system L is actually digestive system. So anything that is not digestive is wrong. So straight away cross out 4. System K is your circulatory system. So anything that is not circulatory system we can cross out. So straight away 1 and 3 is wrong. Check for the last one, which is actually your respiratory system. So in this case, sometimes going by elimination method is the easiest, because when you look at this, if you ask me, the one that is most difficult to identify is actually system K. However, the easiest one to identify will be system J and system L, because they tell you inhale air, exhale air, straight away there's only one system that deals with air. Then they tell you food for system L, digestive system. So maybe you don't even know what is K. Let's just say you don't know, you question mark. But as long as you can identify system J and system L, which is over here, J and L, straight away you already know that the answer is number 2. Can you see that without having to even identify K? So let's just say out of all the options, system 2 seems most correct. You're not so sure whether system K is circulatory. Then you look back. Okay, if it's circulatory, does it make sense based on my answer? And you realize that, hey, it actually makes sense. So this is the reason why your MCQ, you have to score full marks. Because even though you're not sure, right, you actually can get the answer one. It's really not that complicated. Okay, moving on. Have you all finished copying already? Okay. Now, moving on to question 6. Nathan had his heartbeat monitored for a period of time. The graph shows the rate of his heartbeat. So once again, like I always say, always identify topic. So question already gave you hint, heartbeat. Okay, and then you see things like, oh, number of heartbeats per minute. So straight away, this is actually on your circulatory system. Okay, that is your topic. Okay, you narrow down. Then after that, they went on to tell you things like his friends Agnes, Beatrix, and Kevin make the following statements. Okay, based on this graph, whereby you see that his heartbeat rate increases at different intervals at different time. Okay, so it went from somewhere low to somewhere high, maintain, then went back high again, maintain, and then went back slightly lower. Okay? So then you need to start to think already. Okay, Heartbeat rate increasing. Okay, when did Mr. Chang say heartbeat rate is increasing? Why would my heartbeat rate increase when I am what? Running. So when I'm exercising. So therefore, the concept would be, if you remember, okay, this is very important. Heartbeat rate increases to pump more blood to transport. Very good. More oxygen and glucose, well done, to muscle cells for
release more energy.
Increase or more respiration to release more energy. Now, the reason why you need more energy is to actually provide it to support your increased rate of activity. So in this case, it can be anything to do with exercising, such as walking, running, skipping. Obviously, the more intensive the exercise, the faster your heartbeat is going to actually beat. Joseph, are you done copying? Okay? So, I say again, the more intensive your exercise, okay, the faster your heartbeat should increase in order to get the required amount of energy to support that level of intensity. Makes sense, right? So someone who was walking would need less energy than someone that is running. So this concept is important for you to answer this question. Now, you also need to understand that glucose and oxygen is always together. Always. Okay, because respiration cannot take place alone with just increased amount of oxygen or increased amount of glucose. Both of them need to come together. Just in case you all don't know what is glucose, some of you still blur. Glucose is the simple sugar.
The simplest form.
Very good, simplest form of sugar. But I put simple sugar here so that y'all, just in case y'all didn't know. Alright? So this concept you must memorize by heart. Okay? Must. It's extremely pertinent that you get this straight up. Alright, moving on. Okay? Next. So they ask you, who actually made the correct statement? Nathan is most likely to be resting at A. Yes. Okay, because it is lowest. So when you are actually at the lowest rate, okay, when you compare the graph, you know that he is at a resting state whereby he does not need so much energy. So when you do not need so much energy, your heartbeat rate also goes down. Alright? Sheldon, eyes on screen. Beatrix says that Nathan is most likely to be exercising at D. This is actually, okay?
False.
Now, it doesn't mean that it's false. Okay? So you need to be very careful. You're not sure. Even I'm not sure. Do you know why? Because do you realize that his resting state is at 70? So I can say that at B, he's also exercising, but he's doing a less intensive exercise in B as compared to C. So maybe say C, he is running, but B, he is walking. You understand? So I cannot say for sure. So if this statement, Nathan is most likely to be exercising at D, I may say probably. let's look at what options is given to me. Then after that, Kelvin says, Nathan needs the most oxygen at C. This is correct because as you can see, his heartbeat rate is the highest at C. This means that the amount of oxygen he needs is the highest, okay, which tallies to his energy level. So I know that confirm Agnes and Kevin is confirmed true, okay. So my answer is Agnes and Kevin. 3. That's how you get your answer. So don't be so certain. Alright, you need to reason with yourself. So I hope that by me going through like that, you can see how I reason when I do my MCQ. I cannot stress more than enough that you have to be very careful. You have to earn all the marks in MCQ. It can be done. Next, question 7. Now the diagram below shows how blood is transported in our body. Okay? So, straight off the top, when you read the question, they tell you already, blood transported. Okay, so blood and transported will hint you that it's actually circulatory system already the topic. Then they ask you, 4 blood samples were taken from different blood vessels, A, B, C, and D located in different parts of the circulatory system of a body at the same time. The amount of blood taken for the 4 samples is the same. The blood sample with the least amount of oxygen in the blood is most likely to be taken from vessels, what and what. So basically the topic over here would actually be circulatory system. And the concept that they are testing you on is basically the composition of oxygen at various parts of the body. Okay? Now, these gases they are primarily looking at oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. Okay, alright, composition. So they are looking at oxygen and carbon dioxide. Later on, when you go up to secondary school level, you will not just be looking at composition of oxygen and carbon dioxide. You will also be looking at sugar levels, mineral salts, a lot more other things. Now, so to start you off, right, they will ask you questions on gases for primary school level. So just in case you all don't understand what is the meaning of composition, I'm going to repeat again. So composition means what is the percentage makeup. Okay, so the composition of this, for example, this metal bottle here is made up of maybe say 60% aluminium mixed with 2% copper mixed with 3% iron mixed with etc. etc. So that's composition. Now, so in this case, what they are testing you is, do you know how the gases are being transported? So you need to relate this with your respiratory system. Why? Because your respiratory system will include parts like your lungs. Your lungs is where gaseous exchange happen. So I want you to think, at the lungs, what do you uptake? What do you take up a lot?
Oxygen.
Exactly. So you have an uptake of O2, oxygen, and you are going to give out. What gas do you give out?
CO2.
Very good, CO2. So the blood that flows out of your lungs, do you think they'll be rich in oxygen? Yes. So because it just came from the lungs, okay, this whole area here is actually rich in oxygen. We call it oxygenated blood. Now, conventionally, in textbook, they always use red color to represent oxygenated blood and blue color to represent deoxygenated blood, which contains a lot of carbon dioxide. So what happens here is blood would then continue to flow from here, oxygenated blood, into your heart. Once it goes into your heart, the heart will pump it out, continue to go, okay, to all other parts of the body. So at D, is deoxygenated or deoxygenated? Very good. It is still rich in oxygen. Why? Because it has not reached all the rest. Yes, all the rest. Yes, your body has not used it, we assume. But your heart itself will take up a little bit. Okay? But just a little bit only. But it's still considered as oxygenated. So then it will go into your body, okay, as oxygenated blood. Now this is the part that you need to be careful, whereby your body will cells. When I talk about body, I'm talking about every single part of the cells. Okay, they will actually carry out something called respiration in every single cell. Now during respiration, you need to understand that oxygen, O2 is oxygen, is used up. And then what happens is CO2 is produced. Well done, Emmanuel. So what happens is when CO2 is being produced, the CO2 goes back into the goes back into the blood vessels, okay, and your blood will become deoxygenated blood. So we use blue color to indicate. So we say that at B, these blood vessels over here is actually rich in carbon dioxide and poor in oxygen. So then the blood will continue to flow back into your heart, make a U-turn at the vessel here, and go back into where do you think? The lungs. Very good. Exactly. So then so we say at A, the same thing here. A is still rich in carbon dioxide but poor in oxygen. Once again, do not use this symbol, the chemical formula that I'm writing. CO2 and O2 cannot be used in exam at your level. You have to spell the two gases out in full. So it will go back into your lungs, whereby it will be removed. Now this is called the circulatory system because the whole cycle happens again. So in the lungs is where your gaseous exchange will happen. Whereby you will exchange, the two gases that are being exchanged will be carbon dioxide and oxygen. So your body will take up oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Okay? This is something that you need to know. And also, sometimes in exam, right, they will always ask you to identify what organ is this. The heart is always the easiest to identify because blood will return to it 2 times. You will see. The first time that blood will return to it is over here, will go into the heart. Okay, this is the first time. The second time that it will go back into the heart is over here. So the first time is from body into the heart. The second type is from the lungs into the heart. Okay, so this is the easiest organ to identify. Whenever they give you a diagram and they say things like, oh, what is organ X? Or which one is organ X? Okay, the easiest to identify is always the heart. Then from there you can do other things. Now, so then the question asks you, which one has the least amount? Okay, so they ask you the 2. So you know what? Least amount of oxygen. So we already identify already. It's actually A and B. Answer A and B, 1. Okay? So far, are you okay? Any questions? Am I very clear? Okay, so make sure you go home and view this video again because this is for you. Moving on. Next question. Okay. Xia En wanted to find out if light is needed for seeds to germinate. She set up her experiment as shown below. Okay, then this is the experiment. Let's move on to the question. Xia En's father commented her experiment was not a fair one. Which of the following changes should she make the setup to make it a fair test? Now, this question, okay, is not about the topic. It is about the concept on making a fair experiment. So whenever you want to actually talk about fair experiment, right, they can use any topic. They can use rate of heartbeat. They can use any other topics that you are familiar with or you have been taught. But the key idea here is they want to test. They are testing whether are you able to conduct or know what is included in a fair experiment. Now, I want to stress this. I have been repeating this every time. If you take a look at all my revision video, right? Whenever we have this kind of question or wherever the opportunity arises, I always tell you this. In order for a fair experiment to happen, you can only have one change variable and nothing else. And the change variable usually needs to be the one that you want to investigate or look at. Okay, it cannot be any other change variable. For example, I give you a very simple one. You want to know whether eating more food will make you grow taller. Okay, so what happens is this. In order to do that, right, you cannot just say I have two boys, same gender, right, of a similar height and weight. Cannot. You can only do it with twins because genetically they are identical in every single way. They are the exact same thing. Only with identical twins. Okay, then one person you feed a lot, the other you don't feed. And then even the type of food they eat must be exactly the same. The only difference is the amount of food given to them. Now, only then can you measure the height difference. So remember your question was, will eating more food affect the height? So basically, if you just even change the type of food, already wrong already. If you actually get two boys of a similar height and weight, but they are not twins, also wrong. Because many people can say, oh, their metabolism rate is different. Their brain chemistry is different. Okay? So just to sidetrack a bit, that is why it is very difficult to conduct human trials on experiment like that. It's very unethical. Because can you imagine the child that doesn't get enough food will be malnutrition, and the child that gets too much food will be overweight. So this is the reason why this kind of things don't really happen. Okay, it's very unethical. So in this experiment, okay, so we wanted to find out what is the change variable here. Find out what? So what is the change variable here? Yeah, so the change variable is actually to find out if light is needed. So this is the change variable that you should be looking at. Okay? So she set an experiment as shown, okay? But the dad said it's not a fair one. So let's see. So one must have light, the other must have no light, right? So black box, no light, clear glass. Okay, I don't see if there's an issue. Green bean, red bean, can or not? So is this one is second variable that you don't want to change already. And then after that, what else? Dry and moist. So can you see there are altogether three things that are that are changed, you know. So she needs to change the dry cotton wool to make it moist as well. And then on top of that, okay, put set up Y in the kitchen table. Yes or no? Okay, yes. Because can you see if set up, so by changing this to actually kitchen table, you're making sure that the environment that they grow in is the same, which is what is required. At the same time, you should also change the both of them to green bean seeds. So answer is A, B, and C. Everything else needs to be the same except the
Container.
yes, because you're looking at light and no light. That's the only difference. Okay, I need y'all to be very serious about this. If you realize that this keep coming up, and that's why I'm drilling you on this. Alright? Next. Study the table below. Which of the following parts of a cell has its function wrongly stated? So this is actually a very straightforward question. Topic is on what? Basic unit of life. Okay, which is actually cells. So I hope that you all know that our basic unit of life is cells. So what do you mean by that? So it means that the most basic form of life can exist as a single cellular organism. And then after that, we are called multicellular organisms because we are made of more than one cell. Okay, we are many cells, okay, coming together. And the concept over here that they are testing you on is actually on the function of different parts of a cell. Function of different, parts of a cell. Okay? I need y'all to do this for every MCQ. At least mentally, you should be able to do this. Okay? Topic, then concept. Because if you cannot do that, you will not be able to narrow down on your thoughts. Trust me, you have a harder time trying to figure out what is what. So now that you know the concept is function of different parts of the cell, start thinking already. Okay? Start recalling. Okay. So this one, no choice, have to memorize one. No need to see already. There is no way around it. Okay, I'm gonna do a video tutorial on this topic so you can actually look forward to it during the holidays. In fact, during the holidays, I'm hoping to post at least 2 revision videos for you, so enjoy. Now, cell wall gives it a regular shape. Is this correct? Yes. Okay, so the cell wall is a very rigid structure, okay, that only exists in plant cells, just in case you all forget already. Okay, chloroplasts trap sunlight for photosynthesis. Yes, very good. That's exactly what will happen. Now, on a side note, are you able to find chloroplasts in all plant cells?
No root. Root hair cells, no.
Very good, Aris. Root hair cells does not contain chloroplasts because it's underground. So why do you need chloroplasts when your roots are underground? There's no sunlight. Okay, this is a common question all the way up to secondary school, all the way up to Sec 4, O levels. There are still people who don't know how to answer this question. Legit. Now, nucleus control all cellular activities. Very good. Now, I always feel that it's not good enough to talk about cellular activities. Every time this comes out, I like to tell my students, when they ask you to tell me what's the function of the nucleus, contain all cell activities and cellular repair. So it doesn't just talk about cell activities in general, it also talks about cell repair or cell reproduction. Okay? Cytoplasm controls movement of substances in and out. This is wrong. This is the answer. Okay? This is wrong. So the function of your cytoplasm is to basically allow chemical reactions to happen. Okay, that is what happened. That is actually the true function of cytoplasm. It's a jelly-like substance, okay, that contains all your other various cell parts, okay, that would actually carry out chemical reactions. Alright, moving to the next question. Okay, question 10. Study the flow chart below. Okay, so once again, you take a look at it. Okay, there's the word cell. So straight away, I know that the topic is on cell and the concept is, then they say, oh, does it control movement in and out? Does it protect? So I know it's once again, it is function of cell parts. Okay, now also I noticed that this has got to do more with a plant cell. That I can narrow it even more. How come? I have things like make food, I have things like protect and support the cell. Okay, so straight off the bat, which of the following represents part Y? Okay, so this is once again, you must be, so this is what cell is this? What type of cell? Plant cell. Okay, let's do a bit of labeling since we're here. Excellent, right? Wow. Can see what I want to label. I want to take this opportunity to stress, highlight, and underscore and emphasize the importance of using a ruler and a pencil to do your labeling. You can use a mechanical pencil, but you need to use a pencil and a ruler. This is the reason why, okay? Now, if you make a mistake, and it's in pen, and it's a labeling question, how are you going to erase it? You can correction tape it, but your tape is not fine enough, and it may end up correction taping part of the diagram. Okay, and you don't want to be wasting time doing it. So there are reasons why we tell you do certain things. And number 2, no arrowheads. Okay, a lot of you like to do this, you know. You all like to do this. Oh, this is the cell wall, and you put an arrowhead here. No. When you use arrowheads in science, it actually indicates direction. So for example, you want to say that, oh, blood is flowing this way, then you use arrow. Okay, when you want to talk about reflection of light rays, you use arrows, correct? But when you want to label something, don't ever use arrowheads. You will get penalized, even up to university level or beyond. You never use arrowhead for labeling. And this is the reason why, if you look at the example, they use straight lines. Okay, so there are 2 lines, okay, for plant cell. So the first cell over here, the first line, okay, is your cell wall. So if you're ever asked to label, you know. The second line, which is here, is actually your cell membrane. This is how you differentiate and label. Okay, I'm going to zoom in even more so that you can see the difference. This set of knowledge will be common to you all the way up to uni level also. Okay, now, then after that, you have this big structure here. Can anyone tell me what is this? Nucleus. Very good. This part here, cytoplasm. Okay, so it's important to know that this is a plant cell, because you would then be able to identify what is why. So I know that a plant cell has a single large what?
Chloroplasts.
Huh?
Vacuoles.
Yes, single large vacuole.
And the white
So because I know that is that, I would not mistake all the rest of this structure as your vacuoles. Okay, trust me. There's been so many times whereby I have students labeling these structures as vacuoles because in an animal cell, your vacuoles are small and tiny and numerous. However, in a plant cell, you only have one large central vacuole. So because I know that it's a plant cell, I'm very careful to take note that, oh, the large vacuole is actually, the large structure in the middle is the vacuole. Those at the side, green, is actually my chloroplasts. Yes. These are my chloroplasts and there are multiple ones. Can you see the spelling? I'm going to spell in red. Please learn how to spell chloroplasts. Okay? Now, chloroplasts okay, the function of chloroplasts is to absorb sunlight for photosynthesis. So they ask you which of the following above represents part Y. So the cell part, does it control movement or not? Is the function of the chloroplast to control movement? Yes or no? No. So you go this way. That's how you read it. Does it protect the cell? No. So you go this way again. Does it make food? Yes. So you go downwards. Answer C. And that is how you read a flowchart. Sheldon, your paper? Today there's science, right? Next question. Sophie placed a bag of starch solution in a beaker of iodine solution and observed it after 6 hours. Okay? Now, the starch could not move out of the bag into the iodine solution, but the iodine solution can move into the bag. Okay, and then it turned dark blue. Which part of the cell has a similar function? So once again, this topic is going to be on cells again. And it's going to be function of the different parts of a cell. So in order to do that, you have to memorize the functions. There is no way around it. Mr. Chong doesn't have a special strategy you can do this. It's just pure memorization. Okay, content. Now, however, they tell you already, it allows certain things to go in, it doesn't allow certain things to go in. So basically, they're asking you which structure in the cell allows certain things to go in but doesn't. So, no, wrong. Be very careful. Cell wall and cell membrane, they are very similar. Your cell membrane is the one that has a control function. Your cell wall, in secondary school, will tell you that it allows all substances to pass through.
So even water can pass through.
Yes, and when I meant all substances, I don't mean your hamburger. Okay, I mean small substances. Okay, it doesn't have a filtering. Okay, it can filter by size. Obviously, you can't squeeze a hamburger through the cell wall. But what I'm saying that is that when the substances are tiny, right, it doesn't have a differentiating function. Whereas your cell membrane, right, it controls. So what does it mean? It can allow the good things to enter your cell while keeping out the bad things. An example would actually be viruses, okay, and bacteria, and things that is not needed in your cell. Alright, so it has this control function. Okay, and sometimes when there's too much salt or too little salt in the cell itself, it can regulate that. Even glucose, okay, which is the simplest form of sugar. Alright. No, it wouldn't. Okay, moving on, next question. Okay, the table below provides some information on 3 cells. So once again, you're looking at 3 cells. PQRA. Take the okay. Tick. Put a tick. A tick indicates the presence of a plant cell. A cell part. Okay. So where are cells PQR likely to be found? Now, so basically, this has got to be linking to your function. Okay. So let's take a look at the individual cells. Now, for cell P, it has a nucleus. Now, all cells have a nucleus except one cell that you learn. What is the cell that does not have a nucleus?
Red blood cell.
Red blood cells. Okay. Now, chloroplast. P doesn't have any chloroplast. Now, which part of the so chloroplast, first question, is it a plant or animal cell structure?
Plant cell structure.
Plant cell structure, because your chloroplast helps to absorb sunlight, correct? To make food. So only plants can make food, so therefore it has to be a plant cell. So you look at cell P, okay, you also know that it cannot be a root, because it cannot be from a root because your root does not contain chloroplast underground, no point. So anything, okay, so they tell you it does not have a chloroplast, so it cannot be a leaf cell. So you look at the options here, straight away, P that is leaf, all wrong. Okay, green color, chloroplast is green color. So straight away, option 1 is out. Then they tell you that it is a cell wall, it is a cell membrane, it has a cytoplasm. So all this tells me that it's plant cell. So all this correct. Then after that, you look at Q. Q basically has everything, including a chloroplast. So it must be a plant cell again. However, this time round, the cell must have what? Must have what? Chloroplast. So it must be from a part whereby it's involved in making food. Yes, so your leaf, okay, and your stem. So why I said stem? Because sometimes yes, it's also green, and some special plant like the cactus the chloroplast is actually located in the green leafy stem. Not leafy, green thick stem. Okay. So the last one, it tells you that it has a nucleus. So it cannot be a red blood cell because your red blood cell does not have nucleus. But cell R has a nucleus. Okay, double check. No chloroplast, no cell wall. That means cell R is actually an animal cell. So is a chick cell animal cell? Yes. So therefore the answer is number 3. So that's how you check your answers. Alright? So now, I hope that you all actually take the time during the holiday. Okay, I will upload all this up. Okay, to really look through what I revised with you and to think about what are the thought processes. How did I actually go through it? Reason being that this thought process is very important because it shows you how these questions are attempted in exams, and you should follow a similar strategy. How I think, how I cancel out, how I rule out. And don't you find that after I show you how I do it, the answer becomes very obvious? Yes? Do you realize that?
But sometimes,
Okay. Alright, you don't have time, so you learn how to do it quicker. So I'm going slow, I'm writing down, I'm annotating. That's why I'm taking a lot of time. But in exams, please don't be like me, annotate everything. No, I annotate for you is so that I can externalize my thoughts and you can see what I'm thinking. And you can follow my train of thoughts. But in exam time, I don't expect you to annotate everything. Annotate important things. Yeah. Okay, but this is how you should think when you're doing an MCQ. And it's very easy to score the full marks. You have to believe in that. And of course, work hard. Okay? Alright, so I will stop the recording. Okay, so we're going to continue today with actually on question 13. So the diagram below shows a sperm cell. So remember, the first thing that you always do for any question, whether are you doing on MCQ or on open-ended question, is to identify the topic and then the concept. So basically over here, you can tell that the topic over here would definitely be repro in humans. Okay, for a very simple reason, because you're looking at a sperm cell. Okay, and then they ask you which part of the sperm cell enables it to swim. So this is actually talking about function. So in short, the concept that they are testing you on would be function of various parts of a sperm cell. Okay? So you have A, B, C, D. Okay, now the answer is actually B, very straightforward. This is the tail. So the tail basically spins, all right, in order to produce a propelling motion to push the sperm cell forward. Okay, I'm just going to explain to you certain important part. Now the head of the sperm cell actually contains DNA material. Yes, which is actually your nucleus. Okay, so when they fuse together with the egg cell, okay, they will form one complete cell. So there's only half the DNA here in your sperm cell. The other half the amount of DNA actually belongs to the egg. So when half the amount from your mother and half the amount from your father comes together to fuse, it creates a single full amount of DNA. Okay? Now, in secondary school, you will learn more about exactly how many numbers. Okay, the answer is actually 23 for each. So add together, there is 46 chromosomes. Don't have to know that, just telling you, because the story is not complete. Alright, moving on. Next. Which of the following statements about human reproductions are correct? Once again, the topic in this case would actually be very straightforward on human reproduction. Sperm cells are produced in the penis. This is wrong. Okay. Sperm cells are actually produced in where? Very good. Testicles. Okay. Now, to produce an offspring, two different sex cells are needed. This is correct. Now, the two different sex cells that we are talking about here would be your egg and sperm. Okay, each containing half the required amount of DNA to form a complete cell. So half from your father, which is the sperm cell, and half from your mother, which is residing in your egg cell. C. A healthy female egg cell is produced once every 2 months. That is wrong. Now, to be very concise, right? The word here should be released. Now, this is just side note. At your level, you don't have to know this, but actually, the number of egg cells that a female is destined to have in her entire lifetime is actually already pre-formed inside the womb. Okay, it's already in the womb of the mother. So when a baby girl is born, the number of eggs is already there. However, these eggs are not matured. Every month, okay, one egg will be released, one egg will be mature, okay, and then one egg will be released. So hence you see the word that I use here is released and not produced, to be more accurate. Okay, released every month. That is average. Okay, you must understand now this is on an average. So in an exam, if they say 1 month, you will take it as correct. But in real life, some girls, okay, they can have their menstrual cycle 2 times in a month, or sometimes even three months then come 1 time. Okay, so this is just an average monthly. Okay, so this is wrong. The sperm cell carries half of the information needed for reproduction, and the egg cell carries the other half. This is correct, like what I told you. So the two answers that are actually correct would be your A as well as your D. So answer B and D, answer number 3 is correct. Okay, I hope I'm clear about it. Moving on. Study the diagram of the female reproductive system. So once again, topic is on female reproductive system. Okay, which of the statements about the reproductive system is or are true? So once again, this concept is testing you on the functions of the different parts of the female reproductive system. So after practicing so many times, right, you don't really have to write it down, because in exams, it's just a mental run through. Okay? So first things first, let's do a little bit of labeling so you actually understand. Okay? Now, X, in this case, this structure over here, okay, is known as your fallopian tube. Okay? And then after that, Y is known as your ovary, singular, ovaries for plural. Z, okay, is known as your womb at your age, but at another level, it is known as your uterus. Now, there is another name for fallopian tube, and that is called oviduct. Okay, actually, oviduct is easier to spell, but I don't know why they introduced to you such a difficult spelling, fallopian tube. Okay, but anyway, at your level is fallopian tube, just to let you know. But at secondary school level, you'll be taught oviduct, which is easier, in my opinion. Okay, just in case you all don't know, this is called the cervix. Also, not required to know at your level, but good to know. Okay, so this part over here is your vagina. Okay, this is where the baby will come out from. All right, now, so what happens is, for fertilization to happen, right, a lot of people think that the sperm and egg actually meets over at this area here. The sperm will be here, and then the egg will be here, and then they will merge together, okay, and then they form a single cell. Now, this is actually a wrong concept. I want to stress, this is actually wrong. What happens is that most of the scenario, the egg is being released from your ovaries, so the egg is actually here. So it will travel in this direction, okay, towards your womb. Now, your sperms, on the other hand, they are actually released over here. And what happens is that your sperms will swim in this direction, okay? And what will happen is that as the sperm swims up into the fallopian tube, it will go and meet the egg at here, this area here in your fallopian tube, to form the fusion of the two cells. Now, this is called fertilization. Write this down. Sorry, it's a bit thick. Give me a second. Let me see if I can make it thinner. Nope. The amazement of an iPad. Okay, so fertilization occurs when two sex cells fuse together to form a single cell. Alright, this is now one cell. Be very careful. After fertilization, how many cells? One cell. Okay? Before fertilization is two cells. One sperm, one egg fused together become one single cell. Now, just a side note, that every single time, okay, wherever sperms are released into the female reproductive system, there are millions and millions of cells. Now, why there are so many sperms? Because a lot of sperms will end up dying, or they end up going to the wrong tube. Okay, so for example, if this side there is no egg being released, half the amount of cells male sperm cells are actually lost, gone case. That's why you need that huge amount of yes, to actually help you out. Okay. Alright, so now that we have done a very quick revision, which of the statements about the reproductive system are true, and X is fertilized, and egg is fertilized at X, this is correct. Okay? An egg is produced in Y, okay? Also correct. Now remember, at your level, you say that an egg is produced. That's fine. Later on, the more accurate term is actually released. Okay, the fertilized egg develops in eggs to form a baby. This is wrong. Okay, imagine your baby starts developing here. What do you think will happen to the tube? It will burst. Okay, but it happens. Okay, it happens. It's called an ectopic pregnancy. If this happens, you have to abort the baby. So you go to a doctor the minute next time, guys, okay, even ladies but guys I would think so. When your wife is pregnant, make sure you take her to a gynae immediately. A gynae is basically a doctor who specializes in babies and female health, to check to make sure that the baby is properly implanted in the womb. Here, or here. Okay? If it implants anywhere else, it is very dangerous, because can you see this is actually very thin. If you implant it in the fallopian tube, it will burst. So the doctor is going to have to give you a medication to actually abort the baby. Okay? If not, abort, that means get rid of the baby. Okay? Because it's a very painful process, but no choice, because the baby is implanted at the wrong place. But it happens actually quite frequently. So ladies, please take note. Okay? Yes, the lady could die from excessive bleeding. Okay, so answer A and B, number 3. Alright, moving on. Okay. One silent clap. Eyes on screen. Which of the following statements about human reproduction is or are true? Once again, we're talking about how well you know. Okay? An egg can be fertilized by a few sperm. This is absolutely wrong. Please make sure that you know that only one. Okay? Now, how do you get twins? Now, you get twins if you get twins that are alike. That means twins that look exactly the same, have the same DNA. It's because after fertilization, okay, how many cells is after fertilization? One. This one cell will go on to divide and spontaneously means on its own, decide to split into 2 exactly same cells. So what happens is that your DNA is exactly the same. It will replicate itself spontaneously. How does it happen? Scientists have no clue. They are still trying to understand the exact mechanism of how it happens with twins that look alike, so that they can better prevent. Because what happens is that multiple baby pregnancy, the risk of miscarriage is exponential. Okay, of a miscarriage. It's not times 2 times, but it's exponential. Risk is very high. That is how you get twins that look alike. So if they don't split properly, there's one cell, that's where you get co-joined twins. Okay, where the head is joined together, or the body is joined together, or they share one organ. That's why it's very dangerous. Now, how do you get twins that are not alike? Twins that are not alike is when usually every month the female will release how many eggs? 1 egg. Very good. But sometimes the women may release 2 eggs. Just nice, 2 eggs fertilized by 2 different sperms. So because there are 2 different eggs fertilized by 2 different sperm at the same time, that's why you will get 2 babies that look totally different. Okay, those are unlike twins, which is more common in that sense. Because research has shown that the older the woman gets pregnant, the higher chance of getting twins. Reason being that the woman, right, okay, bodies will start to signal that, hey, you're getting old. If you don't use your eggs will expire. So the body starts producing hormones or chemical substances that will stimulate the ovaries to release more eggs. Okay, so since it's going to expire, I might as well increase my chances of fertilization by releasing more eggs. Okay, next. The cell division enables different parts of the baby to be developed. This is correct. This is how cells are actually made. Okay. C. The unborn baby gets nutrients from the mother's blood through the umbilical cord. Okay. This is also
Yes, correct.
A and C. True.
Yes.
Okay, now this one needs to be very careful. In a way, the blood of the mother and the blood of the baby, they never mix. Be very careful. So why I pause at this question is because it makes it seem as if the mother's blood was the one that's delivering nutrients to the baby. No. Baby blood and mother blood, they never mix one. So it's very difficult to explain to you how it is a secondary school topic, but know that the mother's blood never gets into the baby system because the baby can have a blood type that is different from the mother. Okay, you have to be very careful about that. So if the blood type mix, the baby is going to die. Okay, or the mother is going to die. So be very careful about that. But because our options here, we know that B is definitely correct. Okay. However, there is no options that is B alone. Do you realize? So I know A is confirmed wrong, right? So I cross it out. Okay. C, you're not quite sure. But you know that B is confirmed correct. So the only one with B that is confirmed correct is option number 3. Okay. 4 cannot be because A you know is definitely wrong. So this is what I meant by elimination method. Okay. And I tell you, the MCQ question is always the best possible answer. Next, Janelle set an experiment as shown below. She placed magnet A on the spring balance with its north pole facing the magnet's B south pole. Okay. She then observed the readings on the spring balance and the electronic balance. Okay. Now, what happens here is this topic is definitely on magnets. Okay, forces, magnets. Okay, now because these two they have the different facing, right? They purposely tell you the different facing, right? Okay, so you see facing. So straight away, right, I can roughly guess that the concept that they're going to test me on is opposite poles attract and like poles repel. This is basically the concept that they're testing me on because of this hint word, the hint over here. So you see how does narrowing the topic and then the concept actually helps you to focus your answers. So then after that, we read the question. What possible observations could Janelle make on the spring balance and the electronic balance? So first question, ask yourself, these two, are they like or unlike poles over here?
Unlike poles.
So they will attract or repel? Attract, right? Very good. So what happens is, if you were to zoom in, you will notice that the direction is this magnet here, magnet B, will go upwards. And magnet A will go downwards because it actually will attract. So for the spring balance, you need to understand. Spring balance, the heavier it is, the more you pull downwards, okay, the higher the reading. That is how it works. It's an inverted reading, okay. So this is where students get confused. Usually is the higher the scale, the better it is. No, the scale for this, right, is inverted. It does not start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's the other way around. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This way. Inverted scale. Because the heavier it is, the more you will be put down. Okay? So you need to be careful. And then from the other way, because your magnet B is going upwards, there is less weight on your electric balance. Less weight.
But then it will both be like in the middle, then the spring balance must be.
Okay, so what will actually she notice? Because you're talking about reading, you need to understand that the spring balance should actually increase or decrease. Increase or decrease. You're pulling more on it, so it should what? Increase. Very good. Okay, so you're going to increase. So anything that is not correct is all wrong. In fact, straight away you can eliminate all the 3, but you need to be sure. Okay? Reading on the beam balance, let's see.
Electronic balance is like
Reading on the spring balance.
the magnet bead can be like
Hold on, let me see. Electric balance should remain. Hold on, the answer is possible. Okay, so what happens is, that's why you need to read the question properly. Sorry, one more time. The question here is possible. So what happens is, it's a very tricky question. It's not as simple as I thought it was. Now, in option 1, reading on the spring balance should decrease. Is this correct or wrong for sure? Wrong. Because can you see it's pulling it downwards, correct? These are opposite poles. So by right, when they pull downwards, my spring balance should increase or decrease? Increase. So this one confirmed wrong already, don't need to see. Number 2, same thing also. Okay. Now, number 3 is possible. However, let's take a look at electronic balance. It increases, correct or wrong? Wrong. Why? Magnet B, is it getting put upwards or pushed downwards? Pull upwards. So when you're getting pulled upwards, is it more force on the electronic balance or less force? Less, right? So when it's less force being exerted downwards, okay, less force, then your reading over here should actually decrease, correct or not? Correct? The reading. But in this case, they say it increased, so therefore it is confirmed wrong. The last one, remain the same and remain the same, is a possible answer. Why? Very simple, lor. Though they are opposite poles, they might not be what? Strong enough to have any effect on each other. So they are attracting, but it's not strong enough. You understand? So because of that, they both remain the same. You understand? So therefore, it's the answer, the plausible answer is number 4. Okay, this is a very tricky question. A good question, in fact. Okay, next. Liz shown a torch on the toy as shown. When the torch was turned on, which of the following shows the correct path that enables her to see the toy? So because of certain keywords, okay, come sit up straight, eyes on screen. So you have the word torch here, you have the word path of light. Okay, this tells me that the topic is actually on light. Okay, now I just want to do a bit of revision now. Whenever you're asked to draw a path of light, right, the ray of the light, right, okay, you must always use a pencil. It's a must. Okay, with ruler. And what you need is arrowhead. Now the arrowhead is important because it shows the direction of your light. Okay, where does it come from and where is it going from? So in this case, over here, the first one, you can see that it shows that the light is coming from the torch light, and then after that, light is also coming from the eye. Can your eye give off light or not? No, it cannot give off. It's not a source of light. Okay, so in order for things to actually, for us to see, it must actually come from a light source, and then after it hits an object, the light ray is reflected into our eyes. Okay, so the answer is actually number 2. Very straightforward. Now I didn't use a ruler to draw this, but make sure you actually use a pencil and ruler to draw it. Okay, that's one of the things that I want to highlight. For all drawings, right, make sure you use pencil and ruler, that's one. Also, another important thing that I want to highlight is that whenever you're doing labeling, please do not use arrowheads. For example, I ask you to label cells. Okay, those of you who have watched my tutorial on cell very good, you probably will have known already. Okay, a lot of you like to do this. Okay, you like to do arrow head like that. And then you say that this is the cell membrane. This is actually wrong over here. No arrowheads for labeling. Arrowheads in sign depicts direction. So you use arrows when you are showing a direction. So for example, how does light ray travel from point A to point B? So that's why in these kind of questions you see arrowheads. Okay? Because you're showing a direction. This can also be used for chemistry, a chemical reaction. Next time when you go to secondary school, you will be exposed to arrowheads because it shows the direction of a chemical reaction. Alright? So I hope I'm clear. I do not want to see any more arrowheads. Next. Okay. Cephas inverted a clear cup where a hole has been poked at the base. He pushed the cup down vertically into a container of water as shown in the diagram below. Which of following would the level be observed as the cup is being pushed down into the container of water? Now, the answer for this is actually number 1. Okay? This topic that they are testing you on is actually matter. Now, what exactly is the concept then? Anyone can tell me? Anyone confident to tell me what is the concept of matter? Yes, okay, very good. Matter occupies space. Okay, and in this case, there are two things that are being, two types of matter. Okay, you have liquid and you have solid. Sorry, liquid and gas. They both occupy space. Okay, in fact, all three, solid, liquid, gas, they all occupy space. So what happens is that the answer is 1. Now, but how come? Because as you push the cup down, the air escapes. Now, there is a very nice term to describe this phenomenon. Anyone can tell me what is this term called, whereby water goes in and then after that the air is being pushed out? Starts with D. So what actually happens here is, this is a very common open-ended question asking you to describe what actually happens. So what actually happens is that let me use a less thick one so you can see. As the cup is pushed down, the water enters the cup and displaces the air in the cup. Okay, the word here is displace. What does it mean to displace? To displace means to push something away and replace the space. Okay, that is the meaning. So for example, originally, before you push the cup down, all this space is occupied by air. So as you push downwards, you need to understand that water will enter. However, at the same time, any air that is inside here will now be pushed out. Water has occupied this amount of space, which was originally occupied by your air. Mika, sit up straight, please. copy. I'll be checking your notes later. Okay, so this word displaces is very important. This concept is actually taught in P4 last year under the topic of matter. However, I believe many of you have forgotten this word. Have you come across this word displace?
Yes.
If you misplace.
The displacement vehicle.
Okay, yes, displacement can. Okay, moving on. Okay, hurry up. Moving on in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Next question. Joseph was at a coffee shop. He ordered a cup of hot tea and noticed that the man poured the hot tea from one cup to another several times as shown in the diagram. Joseph thought that this pulling action will help cool down the hot tea more quickly. So once again, stay direct. Okay? So once again, the key thing is you see the word hot. You see the thing cool down. Okay? You see the word more quickly. Okay, so the topic would be on the topic would be on heat, and the concept would be on transfer of heat or heat transfer. Okay, so which of the following statements explain why the cool tea will cool down more quickly this way? Okay, there is an increase in surface exposure of the tea. This is correct. Okay, because as you pull, you have a greater exposed surface area whereby heat can be lost from a region of higher temperature, which is your hot tea, to a region of lower temperature, which is the surrounding air. Okay? B. The hot tea loses heat to the surrounding air more quickly. Yes. C. Steam escape from the hot tea, causing it to cool down faster. Now, be careful. Steam only happens at temperatures 100 degrees and above, because the boiling point of water is at what degrees? 100 degrees, and steam only occur when water boils. So they told you already it's at 80 degrees. So got steam or no steam? Don't have. So therefore answer A and B only. Answer 2. So you need to be very careful. Whatever information they give you in the question, all right, things like 80 degrees Celsius, etc., right? You need to take note of it, okay? And you need to understand that steam only occurs at 100 degrees and above. Moving on. Now, Joanne took 3 ice cubes, P, Q, and R of different sizes and placed them on the table as shown in the diagram below. Which of the following statements about the ice cubes is or are correct? Okay? So, once again, they are talking about transfer of heat. Now, Q will take the longest time to melt completely. This is actually correct because Q is the biggest. Now, when you are the biggest, you have the least surface area. So, because the surface area is the least, therefore, heat, there's less exposed area for heat to be transferred from the warmer surrounding into the colder surrounding of your ice cube. P will take a longer time to melt completely than R. This is also correct. Okay? The temperature of Q is lower than P when melting. This is wrong. Why? Because melting point is at how many degrees? When ice start to melt, what must the temperature be? 0 degrees Celsius. It cannot be any other temperature. And the temperature will remain what? Will remain constant or the same until every inch, every part of the solid ice has become liquid. Okay? So as it gains heat, the temperature doesn't go any higher. I've talked about this in my revision video. It will stay at 0 degrees all the way until every single part of the ice cube is completely melted. Then, only then, will your temperature start to increase. At this time, everything is liquid water already, no more ice. Okay? So the answer will be A and B only, number 2. Next, okay, this is a very common question. You must know how to do this. Must. There is a technique and a strategy to attempt this question, and that's called a temperature line. I will teach you this. The table below shows the boiling and melting points of 3 substances, D, E, and F. Which of the following is most likely to be the state of substances D, E, and F at 30 degrees? So what you need to do is, you need to draw a temperature line to help you. So what is that? So let's just say we talked about here. So let's start off with D. Now we know that in D, okay, the boiling point is at 25 degrees. Okay, so boiling point, let's just say we start off with 0 degrees to help us. I like to put 0 degrees because it helps orientate myself. Anything that is on the left hand side is negative. Anything that is on the positive, on the positive side of 0 degrees is actually positive lah. Okay, on the right hand side. So 25 degrees, I would say, is somewhere around here. Okay, now this is actually what point? Boiling point. Okay. Now, the melting point is actually at 5 degrees. So 5 degrees is roughly here. Melting point. Okay. So what happens over here is, I know that anything that is after 25 degrees over here is what state? Gas. Okay, or gaseous. Anything that is before 5 degrees is how many? Is what state? Solid. So anything that is in between 5 to 25 over here is actually liquid. Okay, so anything above 5 but haven't reached 25 is liquid. So this timeline gives me something that is very accurate already. So based on this, right, I wanted 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is actually somewhere here. So 30 degrees is here. Is it after 25? Yes or no? Is 30 degrees after 25 degrees Celsius? Yes. So what kind of state is it? Gas. So straight away, I know that D is a gas. Anything else is wrong. Okay, moving on, let's look at E. So for E, they tell you that the boiling point is at 120 degrees. So maybe say 120 degrees somewhere here lah, huh? Okay, this is the boiling point. And then somewhere melting point is at 40, somewhere here lah, 40 degrees Celsius. This is melting point. So once again, anything that is before 40 would be a solid. At 40 degrees, it melts to become a liquid. And then after that, anything above 120 becomes a gas. So at 30 degrees, is it less than or more than 40? Less than, right? Somewhere here. So it's actually a solid. So this is correct and this is wrong. So straight away, I know that my most probable answer is number 2. But I want to check. So I will draw a third line for my F. So F, right, it says that, okay, the melting point is at 5 degrees. And then after that, the boiling point is at 20. So let's say it's over here. Sorry, give me a minute. Let me just readjust this. Okay, so anything that is before 5 degrees is actually a solid. Anything that is after 5 degrees but before 20 degrees is actually a what? Liquid. And anything after 20 degrees, it becomes a what? Gas. So 30 degrees is somewhere here. 30 degrees is somewhere here. This is 30. So this tells me that it's actually a gas. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Yes, I have wrote wrongly. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, let's complete this before we go off. My apologies. Okay, one more time. Okay, melting point is at 5 degrees. Yes. Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry. I wrote wrongly. Okay. Sorry, let's. Melting point is at 20. Okay, so this is melting point. Boiling point is at 70. So therefore, anything before 20 is actually a solid. Anything after 20, it becomes a liquid. And anything after 70, it becomes a gas. So in this case, 30 is actually here, which is actually a liquid. So therefore, it's correct. So therefore, I have checked all my answer. It's all correct. Answer number 2. Okay, so this temperature line is very important. You must learn how to do it properly in exam. Okay, like how I show you. And checking your answer is also important. So for today's lesson, we're going to go on to question 23. Now, straight away, for question 23, if you have watched my video on water and changes of state, you'll be able to recognize this question as a topic on water
cycle
and changes of state. Yes. Okay. Now, for this one, right, they're actually testing you whether or not you know which process is gaining heat, okay, when your water is changing state, and what is that process known as. Now, let's start off from solid to liquid water. Okay, I've said this many times in my video. You need to imagine that you are the substance whenever you want to find out if you're gaining heat or losing heat. So from solid to liquid, okay, if you are the ice cube, you will actually need to gain heat from the surrounding because your surrounding has a higher temperature. Heat will move from the surrounding higher temperature into you if you are the ice cube, causing you to start to melt. So A is actually melting. Then from your liquid water to your gaseous state, there is actually 2 processes that can happen. So I'm going to do a very quick revision. You have, firstly, evaporation. You also have a second one known as boiling. This is very important. Okay, please write all this, annotate all this thing down. I'm really doing a real-time revision with you. Now, you need to know that there is a big difference between boiling and evaporation, which I'm going to talk a little bit. Now, for evaporation,
can take place at any time.
now it's not about taking place at any time, but it's about taking place at any yeah, so it happens at any temperature. You see, good attempt, Aris. However, you need to be very careful. If you say any time in exam is wrong. Boiling can also happen anytime.
Is it any temperature above or freeze?
No need. is just any temperature, that's it. Okay, it's as simple as that, and it only happens at the surface of the water. What do I mean by that? Say I have a beaker of water. I'm going to zoom in some more. Say I have a beaker of water. Okay, evaporation only happens at the surface here. That's all. That's it. Okay, and it's at any temperature. So that is why your clothing will actually dry off, okay, at any temperature. Put away everything that is not related. However, for boiling, please know that it only happens at boiling point. Now this boiling point is a fixed temperature, not any other temperature, is fixed. So different substances have their own boiling point. Okay, pure substances have their own fixed boiling point. For example, water boils at 100 degrees. Now when I talk about water, I'm talking about pure water, because some water is actually impure. For example, seawater. Please take note that salt water and seawater is not the same. Salt water refers to salt that has been dissolved in water. Seawater talks about the water that you take from the oceans or the sea. So they contain more than just salt in it. They have different minerals and even contaminants. Okay? Yes, some of you correctly mentioned there's feces, but besides feces, there are also other things. Okay, like rubbish and whatnot. Okay? And boiling takes place throughout the whole body of water. So if I'm talking about a pot, it'll be the whole pot of water. If I'm talking about beaker, it'll be the whole beaker of water. This is the reason why when you have a clear glass beaker that is boiling, you see bubbles forming throughout the whole entire body of water. Okay? All these are very important notes. You will see that I keep repeating them because these are key concepts. So sometimes they may ask you, what is the difference between evaporation and boiling? You have to use the words but or however. A comparison word needs to be there. It is actually time for you to start learning how to use these words. Okay? So for example, I ask you, what is the difference between boiling and evaporation? Alright, you need to say, evaporation happens at any temperature, but boiling happens at a fixed temperature. Okay? Now moving on. So from water to gas, from liquid to gas, okay, there is actually two things that can happen, either boiling or evaporation. Now, from your liquid water to, from your gas to your liquid water over here, okay, the process, imagine you're the gas. How do I become water? I need to lose heat. Okay, so when I'm losing heat, this is known as condensation. Okay, condensation. Yes, Akshay, you have a question? Okay. So condensation. So in condensation, your gaseous particle will lose heat to a cooler surface. So once again, remember when I talk about this, you must always tell me who loses heat and lose heat from where to where. So for example, if you see, how come a glass of ice water has water droplets on the outside? That is because the surrounding air is of a higher temperature. So what happens is that when this air particle touches the cooler surface, which is over here, okay, it will lose heat from the water vapor to the cooler surface of the glass. and then it will condense into liquid water droplets. Okay? So then from your liquid water, it then becomes an ice. So in order to do that, it will need to lose heat. So in this case, it's losing heat and is known as freezing. The process. So by doing that, you have gotten all the answer. So A has to be melting. Anything that is not melting is wrong. So straight away, you know that the answer seems to be 2. But let's check. B, evaporation, correct. Boiling is also correct. However, they put that evaporation is correct. C is freezing and D is condensation. So all is correct. So number 2. So in question like that, sometimes you need to check for all. Because you could actually be careless. Okay? For A. So in this case, it's very straightforward. A is definitely correct. Okay? So therefore, the answer is 2. Question 24. Jack used the setup below to demonstrate the water cycle. His teacher commented that the setup would not work. Which of the following could be the reason? Okay. So what happens is that we know that in order for water cycle to work, you first need to understand that there are 2 very important processes that drives the water cycle. 2. You must know this by heart and you must know it very well. I'm going to create a video on the water cycle for you, hopefully by this weekend, so that you can go and look at it and then revise for your upcoming test, which includes water cycle. The 2 processes, the first one is actually evaporation. The second one is actually condensation. So together, these 2 will actually give you your water cycle. Alright? So if you were to go back to our real water cycle, what you've noticed is that if this is the river, so this is like a mountain or whatever, okay? The sun is always the source of heat. So because it is the sun's source of heat, okay, listen to how I describe. Okay, water from the sea would gain heat from the sun, and then it would evaporate to become water vapor. Okay, so the first process is evaporation over here. So then the evaporated water vapor would rise up, okay, and then it goes up to the cooler surrounding, up in the higher atmosphere, where it will actually lose heat to the cooler surrounding. So as you rise up, it becomes colder, and what happens is that it will lose heat to the cooler surrounding and become what? Tiny liquid water droplets, very tiny, and that forms your cloud. Now, how come it rains? Okay, so the second process here that we have here with this becoming tiny water droplets is condensation. Rain is formed when the water droplets, tiny water droplets combine to become bigger water droplets, and then after that, when it's too heavy, the water droplets will fall as rain back into the ocean. Okay, and then the process repeats itself again. Okay, hence this is called your water cycle with the 2 most important processes, evaporation and condensation. This is extremely important. You have to understand this. I will talk about it more in my video, but generally if you can understand this, that is the gist of it. Now, so it would not work. So can you see that in the body of water over here in its experiment, there is ice. So when there is ice inside, what do you think happens to the temperature of the water? Go down or go up? Decreases. But look, in your water cycle, you need your sun to give you heat. In his experiment, is there any heat source? No, there is no heat source. So do you think evaporation will happen very quickly? No. Okay? So because evaporation is going at such a slow rate, and even if it evaporates, right, guess what? Any water vapor that is inside, do you think it's higher temperature or lower temperature than the Petri dish?
No, higher, lower.
Lower. Very good. So when it's lower temperature, my question is, does it have any heat to be lost or not? Got heat to be lost? Or is it the other way around? Which way? First or second? Second. Yes. Instead of actually the water vapor condensing here, it will not happen because now the water vapor has a temperature that is lower than the Petri dish here, which is supposed to represent the higher altitude in the sky where it's a cooler environment. But no, the temperature here becomes cooler than the Petri dish. So no heat is lost. You cannot condense. So there's not enough ice cube is wrong. In fact, it's because there's presence of ice cube. Hot water should be used in a container instead of ice water. This is correct. Because when there's hot water, then evaporation would happen, right? You should put ice cube on the Petri dish instead of hot water. Yes, absolutely correct. Okay, remember our explanation of condensation is that the water vapor needs to lose heat to the higher, cooler environment. But look at here, instead of providing a cooler environment, they give you a hot environment. Okay? So cannot. So therefore, your answer would be B and C. Answer number 3 is the correct answer. So far, any questions? Am I clear? Okay, good. Moving on. Okay, question 25. Darius conducted an experiment using a beaker of water to observe how heat was gained or lost. He measured the temperature of the water at different times and plotted the graph to show his results. Okay, so can you see the keywords over here? Heat was gained or lost. Okay, so this one, very straight away, you know the topic is on heat, and the concept that is being tested here is probably heat transfer. Alright, so for heat transfer, remember the key idea is always about heat moving from a region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. Okay, I repeat until I don't want to repeat already. This tells you that this is coming up for exams. So just be smart about it. Okay, and in fact, if you have actually done the targeted revision video along with the worksheet that I've given you, you should be very good at this. Now, which of the following wrongly describe the changes taking place in the beaker during the experiment? So from point A to B, some hot water was added to the beaker of water. Now, over here, so does it make sense for number 1? No, because if hot water was added, temperature should go up or go down? Go up. Instead, it went down. So therefore, this is wrong. From B to C, which is here, they tell you that the beaker of water was placed in a freezer.
Yes.
Okay, now this one, be very careful. Why? Because what happens here is it looks like it's correct because when freezing takes place, temperature remains constant, unchanged. Very good. However, the way I'm not too comfortable with the way it is being described here because it's as if you took the beaker and you just chuck it in and immediately it became 0 degrees.
No, it must be from A to C.
Yeah, something like that, right? There must be, it must first decrease. If it starts at at 30 degrees, you must give it time to cool down to 0 degrees before it goes flat, correct? However, remember, it's always best plausible answer. So I'm not so sure, so I'm going to skip. There was a change in state as water was being heated from C to D. Okay? Wrong. C to D as water was being heated.
You're going to be heated because it's the
Okay, so now C to D, okay, there was a change in state as water was being heated. Now, C to D, I'm also not very sure. Let me explain to you why. Because whether you heat or don't heat, there is still a change in state. Especially you heat. Why? What change in state is this? Evaporation, very good. Emmanuel, you are spot on. A lot of students do not recognize this. Okay, they think it's absolute, but in a real life scenario, you think about it. When you heat a pot of water before it reaches boiling point, you mean there's no change in state? No what? If the water is gaining heat, right? So when it's gaining heat, is there a change in state? Change in state? Yes, there is, from liquid to gas. But then again, I'm not quite sure because I think they're asking me for something that is clearer. So these two, I'm going to put a question mark and think about it later. Let's take a look at the last one. D and E, water in the beaker was boiling. Yes, this is confirmed. Why? Let's check. Is it at 100 degrees? Yes, water boils at 100 degrees. Is it straight line? Straight line means constant. It didn't change, right? As time progresses, it remained at 100 degrees. So remember, Mr. Chong told you this, right? During change of state, there is no temperature remains constant. So this is definitely correct. So therefore, the answer would be number 4. Whereas these two, which of the boy wrongly describes? Okay, my apologies. So the answer is number 1, this is for sure. Okay? My apologies, number 1. It's not really wasted time. I walked you through. Cannot say wasted time, I walked you through on how to. And I explained to you why B and C, I'm a bit uncomfortable. Yes, exactly. So, see, I explained to you all why I think it could be wrong or it could be correct. So, this tells you that 2 and 3 is dubious. It's questionable. But we're going to put it one side first. So the best answer is number 1. For sure, it is wrong. Okay, I'm showing you in real exam. This is what is going through my mind when I go through. Okay, and I can give you very good reasons why I think the answer is a yes or a no. Okay. Now, 26. Janice ordered a glass of orange juice. After a while, she noticed that there were water droplets on the outer surface. Oh, classic question. You see, I just explained condensation, correct?
Classic. Shut up.
You do realize that you're being recorded. You see the red button up there. You'll just record your behavior. Okay? Now, which of one of the following correctly explains her observation? So we know that the reason why there's water droplets, okay, I'm just going to jump straight into the explanation again, is that the water vapor that is surrounding it, which is of a higher temperature. Now, then the glass over here, the surface of it is of a lower temperature, okay, simply because there is ice cube. The ice cube actually absorbs or takes in all the heat, causing the temperature of the surface of the glass to be very cold. So what will happen is heat will be lost from the hotter water vapor to the cooler surface of the glass. Therefore, it will then condense into liquid water droplets. Now, which of the following correctly explains her observation? The surrounding air lost heat and condensed on the cooler surface. One seems correct, but let's check the rest and see why they're wrong. The surrounding water vapor gain heat. Straight away wrong already. The surrounding water vapor lost heat and condensed on the cooler surface of the glass. Okay? Oh, this seems to be a better answer. Okay? The water surface from the orange juice lost heat and condensed on the cooler surface. This is wrong. It's not from the orange juice, but it's supposed to be from the surrounding air. So this is actually a classic example of why I say you need to read carefully and you need to go through all options. Okay? Because the first one seemed correct, like I say. So I circled it, but I went on to look at the rest to make sure that there were no better answers. And then when I chanced upon option 3 actually presented itself with a more clearer and specific answer, which is water vapor. So in exams, please also make sure you talk about water vapor instead of being vague and just say air. Okay, and that is a marking point. Can? Answer is number 3. Alright, moving on. Okay, Ali set up an experiment as shown in the diagram below. Setup A is placed in an open field at 12 noon, while setup B was placed in the same spot in the open field at 6 p.m. Okay, on the same day. He recorded the amount of container left after 3 hours. So if you take a look at it, alright, this is actually doing an experiment. They are also very careful to make sure that they tell you that everything else is the same except what they are trying to test for. You realize this is again and again they keep testing you on the same thing. Okay? So the only difference is the time. So one is at 12 noon, one is at 6 p.m. So when you think about it, what do you think is different? They say open field. The time. Okay, so the time affects what? Temperature because of the sun, right? Very good. So it's actually temperature that is different. So I would say that the temperature in the noon time is higher or lower? Higher as compared to 6 p.m. when the sun is setting. Okay, so with that you know that, okay. So this topic is on heat probably. And then after that, the concept tested in this case is factors affecting the rate of evaporation. Now, why do I know that? I know that because the amount of water is different. Later he will show that it is actually different. So ask yourself, why is it that everything else is the same except for the timing, which means that the temperature is different? So given that temperature is different, think how come the temperature is different, the amount of water left behind is also different. And this will point you the direction whereby they are actually testing you on factors affecting the rate of evaporation. Now for factors affecting the rate of evaporation, there are altogether 4 factors, which I'm very quickly going to revise with you. Okay? The 4 factors that you need to know would be, firstly, wind speed. Alright, you also have temperature. Oops, sorry. And then after that, you also have surface area. Very good. This is actually exposed surface area. And then lastly, you also have humidity. Now, these 3, when this increase, it will also means that there is an increase in evaporation rate. However, For humidity, when it increases, it means that it has a decrease in evaporation rate. This is something you must remember.
So it's the opposite lah, right?
Yes, this is the only one that is the weird one.
The water vapor in the air.
Okay, yes, because there's a lot of water vapor in the air. Okay, and there's no more space. Think of it as that way. Okay, this is very important. Please write it down. Yeah, it is a classic question. Okay, so remember this. Actually, the exam is only so long. Examiners will always want to test you on the same concepts because they are important. Not because the examiners have nothing else better to do, but because these are key fundamental concepts. They have to make sure that you understand. So there's no point testing you other things where you cannot even grasp the most easiest and fundamentals. Now, so he recorded the results below, even without looking at the table. Based on my prior knowledge, if you are a good student and you listen to Mr. Chong, you will actually understand straight away at 6 p.m. the amount of water should be more because temperature is actually lower. Okay? So at 12 noon, can you see that after 3 hours, it is actually lower as compared to at 6 p.m. This is because at 12 noon, there is a higher temperature. So higher temperature means higher rate of evaporation, therefore amount of water left is lesser. Now, I want you to be very careful about this. Attention, attention. A lot of students will realize that they're not asking for amount of water evaporated. This is amount of water left in the beaker. But a lot of you will read it as amount of water evaporated. In your exams and your practice paper, when a similar question come out, right, you actually tell me, oh, the higher the temperature, the more amount of water was evaporated. When the question was asking you about the amount of water left in the beaker, so straight away you are wrong because you are asking the examiner to think what does it mean when more water has evaporated, rather than telling me straight away how much water was left in the beaker.
Say the surrounding air.
So based on the information, what was the aim of Ali's experiment? Ali wanted to find out if surrounding temperature affects the rate of evaporation of water in the container. And of course it does. Everything else is the same except for your timing, which affects your surrounding temperature.
Oh yeah.
Alright, moving on.
Let's move on to the next page, the last page.
Alright. Now, two identical towers, once again, they are trying to tell you that this is a fair experiment, so you don't think otherwise, were soaked in an equal amount of water and were hung out to dry in the open. They were exposed to different conditions as shown below. So look at the two differences. Once again, you see things like wind. Straight away, when you see things like wind, okay, they will signal to you that the topic, the concept would be what? Heat. And what, the topic will be heat. And what is the concept? Good. Factors affecting rate of evaporation.
Topic is about heat and water cycle, right?
Yes. Okay. Heat, not heat and water cycle, heat and temperature. Okay. So you take a look at it. Everything else, okay, is the same, except there are two factors now. Surrounding temperature is different. Wind is also different. So based on your prior knowledge, okay, because Mr. Chong has told you already, an increase in exposed surface area, wind speed, as well as temperature will cause evaporation rate to also increase. Humidity will cause it to decrease when humidity increases. So they're not looking at humidity here, they're looking at temperature and wind speed. So looking at it, right, this is actually higher when compared to this for temperature. Your wind speed is also higher as compared to this. So straight off, you need to know that evaporation rate, it will be higher here. No need to see already. Okay, for this combination. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. So, if the conditions of the surrounding remain constant for 2 hours, which of the following graphs correctly shows the rate of evaporation of water for each tower over a period of time? So basically, let's look at the first one. Okay, so remember, in graph, right, okay, rate of evaporation, you need to understand. It means that the higher you are, the faster the rate of evaporation. So in this case, we have determined that X would actually be the one with the higher rate of evaporation and Y is lower. Okay, and it needs to evaporate at a constant rate. That means it shouldn't increase, it shouldn't be a curve. When it's a curve, it means that it is speeding up. So it must be a diagonal straight line. Okay, or do you think that it should be a horizontal straight line? Okay, so my answer to you is that it should be not a diagonal one. Wrong. Now why is number 1 wrong? Because if you take a look at it, if this is every 5 minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20. At the first 5 minutes, you're telling me that the rate is at this rate here. Then the next 10 minutes, you're telling me that it has gone faster. Rate, that means every minute.
It's faster and faster.
And faster and faster and faster. Can you see it goes faster and faster and faster? So it's increasing at a constant rate. So when you think of it in terms of car ride, right, it means that the car is moving like that. And then it's getting faster and faster. But with every minute, it's increasing at a constant acceleration rate. So the car is literally going faster. But with every single second, it increases by a fixed amount. So if let's say first minute is 1 kilometer per hour, the next one is 2 kilometer per hour, 3 kilometer, 4 kilometer. Okay, it's constantly going, it's constantly increasing. That's what happens when you see a diagonal graph like this that is straight line. Okay? Alright? So while this is correct to say that X is evaporating faster, it is wrong because it's showing me that it's going increasing. When will this graph be true? When will this graph be true? If let's just say the conditions here change. So if it doesn't remain constant, for example, they say that the surrounding temperature increases in temperature by 5 degrees every minute. Then you know that because as temperature increases, rate of evaporation also increases. So yes, this will happen. Okay? But so in actual fact, did the surrounding temperature change? No, it remained constant. So the answer is actually number 2. Why? Can you see that for X it is at a higher evaporation rate than Y? It is what we agreed on. Okay, evaporation rate higher. That's true. And it is evaporating at a constant rate. Constant. Never change at all. Okay, it's a straight line. So throughout every minute, the same rate of evaporation is happening. This is very important. Very important. Okay, you know how to interpret graphs. Next, this one, number 3, is also wrong. Why? Okay, why is number 3 wrong? Can you take a look at it? It tells me that firstly, X is evaporating at a constant rate, and then Y, even worse, is it started off evaporating very quickly and then after that it slowed down. But remember, all factors were the same, so there shouldn't be any increase or decrease in rate. Number 4, okay, same thing over here except that they swap X and Y, which is not correct. This thing is totally wrong. So the answer is number 2. Okay, be very careful about this kind of graph question. Alright, we have come to the end of our